everyone. Ready to dive into a true horror classic?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
We're tackling Carrie today, the one from 1976.
A good one.
But we're not just gonna, recap the plot or anything. We're
Yeah.
going deeper, way deeper.
Yeah.
Why is this film still considered, a masterpiece after all this time, And why does it still matter now, in 2024?
Well, I think what's so fascinating about Carrie is that it goes beyond just, simple scares.
Yeah.
It digs into these anxieties I think we all have
Uh-huh.
about being a teenager, about fitting in,
Yeah?
and really just, the dark side of people.
Mm.
And those themes, they're just as relevant now as they were back then.
Totally. And we're working from some pretty in-depth film analysis here, and let me tell you, it gets intense.
Oh, wow.
We're talking telekinesis, high school horror.
Okay.
Well, that iconic bucket scene.
Right.
You might want to buckle up.
Right, I'm strapped in. and don't forget, this was based on Stephen King's very first novel.
Oh, that's right.
Talk about a debut.
Yeah.
This launched his entire career.
Mm.
And the themes that he's exploring here, they just keep coming back in all of his work.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Right.
Starting with Carrie herself.
Yeah.
I mean, she's often portrayed as, the scary girl.
Right.
But I think there's so much more to her.
Oh, for sure.
What do you think?
I totally agree. I think the film shows her as both a victim and also an avenger.
Mm.
She's bullied, mercilessly at school.
Right.
And abused by her, super religious mother at home.
Yeah.
But then you have this extraordinary power that's, brewing inside her.
Right.
This telekinesis just waiting to explode.
And Sissy Spacek's performance is just amazing.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
She makes you feel like every ounce of Carrie's pain and vulnerability, but also that, simmering rage that's underneath.
Okay.
So no wonder she got an Oscar nomination for this.
I mean, Spacek's portrayal of her is just captivating.
Yeah.
She embodies Carrie's awkwardness, her isolation.
Especially in those early scenes where she's totally, ostracized.
Yeah.
And then as her powers start to emerge, there's this chilling transformation.
Right.
She becomes almost like a force of nature.
Yeah.
Ready to unleash her fury on anyone who gets in her way.
Totally.
Have you ever felt that urge, that intense urge
Oh, yeah.
to fight back when someone's wronged you?
Hmm.
I mean, Carrie's story takes that to a whole other level.
It does.
It makes you wonder, where is the line
Yeah.
between wanting justice and becoming the monster everyone thinks you are?
That's a really good point. And Brian De Palma's direction
Yeah,
really heightens that tension.
it does.
I mean, think about the shower scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about the blood or the shock value.
Right.
It's about using these techniques like slow motion and extreme close-ups to make you feel every bit of Carrie's panic and humiliation.
Right. It's like he's purposely trying to make us uncomfortable. He's known for this kind of suspenseful, visceral filmmaking.
He is.
It makes you think about how he's using those techniques
Yeah.
to manipulate our emotions as viewers,
Right.
to make us complicit in a way.
Absolutely. And another great example is that split screen.
Oh, yeah, during the prom.
Yes. During the prom scene, it's more than just a cool visual.
Right.
It's De Palma forcing us to confront the two sides of Carrie's experience in that moment. You have the joy of being accepted, but also the total doom that we all know is coming.
It's such a powerful use of that split screen.
It is.
You're watching these two realities play out at the same time,
Yeah.
knowing they're about to collide in the most horrific way. It's like he's saying, look, this is what happens when we ignore other people's pain,
Yeah.
when we let cruelty just fester.
And it's all building to that inevitable explosion of violence.
Right.
And it makes you question, is Carrie really responsible for what she does? Or is she a product of all the cruelty she's experienced?
That's the real question, isn't it?
It is.
And this film doesn't shy away from those tough themes.
Yeah.
Things that are still so relevant today, like bullying.
Sadly, yes.
It's a timeless issue.
It is.
Carrie's story is like a cautionary tale, but it also makes us think about, the limits of forgiveness and the dangers of revenge.
You're so right. It's more than a simple message of bullying is bad.
Right.
It makes us confront the complexity of how people act.
Yeah.
The gray areas where victims can become the perpetrators.
Right.
And how violence just keeps happening over and over.
It's cyclical.
It is. It makes you think about how far is too far.
Yeah.
When someone pushes you to the edge, like where's that breaking point?
Right.
And then you have the whole religious extremism thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like so powerful in Carrie's mom, Margaret White.
She's a terrifying character.
She is.
Like, truly terrifying.
Yeah.
Piper Laurie is chillin'.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
It's like that blend of religious fervor and straight-up abuse.
Right.
It's haunting.
It is.
But there's also something kind of tragic about her, too.
Totally.
Don't you think?
Oh, for sure.
Like, she reflects those societal expectations, those constraints on women.
Especially back then.
Especially back then, yeah. It makes you wonder, is she really a villain? Or is she a victim, too?
Yeah.
Of her own twisted beliefs?
In a way, yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is.
And this ties into another big theme in the film.
What's that?
Repressed femininity.
Oh, interesting.
The blood motif.
Right.
It's not just there for shock value.
It's not.
It's symbolic, right?
Absolutely.
Like, think about how women's bodies and their power were viewed back then. And even now, to some extent.
Yeah, a little bit.
Kara's first period.
Right.
Her humiliation in the locker room. The blood-soaked prom.
Yeah.
It all points to this fear and misunderstanding of female power.
Exactly.
It's like the film saying that female power is dangerous.
Right.
And needs to be controlled. And when it's unleashed, it's met with violence and fear.
It is.
It's interesting, too, because Carrie can also be seen as like
a
coming-of-age story gone wrong.
Right.
We all remember those awkward teenage years, wanting to fit in, feeling isolated. But Carrie's experience, it's amplified by these supernatural abilities.
Right.
It's like puberty on steroids.
Okay, yeah.
But with devastating consequences.
With really bad consequences, yeah.
And the film doesn't just focus on Carrie.
Right.
We see the other students, too. And they're not all just like one-dimensional bullies.
They're not.
Right.
They're products of their environment, too.
Yeah.
Like, some are truly cruel, Chris and Billy.
Right.
But others, like Sue Snell, show some conscience.
Sue's interesting to me. Yeah.
She tries to reach out to Carrie.
She does.
Even though it's maybe misguided.
It is.
What do you think her motivations are?
I think she's dealing with her own guilt. After that locker room prank.
Yeah.
Convincing her boyfriend to take Carrie to prom. It's almost like she's trying to make up for it.
Right.
But it backfires terribly.
It does.
And it just highlights those complex social dynamics.
Yeah.
That pressure to fit in, even if it means being cruel.
It's a reminder that good intentions don't always equal good outcomes.
They don't.
And the film shows us the consequences of those actions. That prom scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to watch.
It is.
But it's a powerful reminder that actions have consequences.
They do.
It's a visceral representation
It is.
of Carrie's pain and anger just being unleashed.
Right.
And De Palma doesn't let anyone off the hook.
No, he doesn't.
He implicates the whole community.
Right. Yeah. In this tragedy, it makes you think about how we treat each other, how our actions can have these ripple effects that we don't even see coming.
It's true.
It's interesting to think about how this story might play out today.
Oh, yeah.
Like, imagine Carrie in the age of social media.
Oh, wow.
Would she find support online? Or would she be even more isolated?
Right.
More vulnerable to cyberbullying?
It's scary to think about.
It is. The internet can be so cruel.
It can be.
It's hard to say how Carrie would navigate that.
Especially with her powers.
Especially with her powers, yeah.
Right.
Imagine the possibilities and the chaos.
Yeah.
Could she manipulate social media? Expose hypocrisy?
Yeah.
Bring down corrupt institutions?
A digital Carrie.
Yeah.
That's a whole other level of horror.
It is. But even without social media, Carrie was a game changer for horror.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It showed you could tell a nuanced story about characters within a horror framework.
Absolutely.
It's not just about jump scares and gore.
No.
It's about exploring the darkness inside us and the society we create.
Carrie paved the way for so many films that delved into these psychological and social themes.
It did.
Yeah.
And we can't talk about Carrie without talking about Stephen King.
Oh, of course not.
It launched his career.
It did.
And his work is still so popular.
It is.
He has this amazing ability to tap into our deepest fears, our desires,
Right.
he creates these relatable characters, even when they're doing terrible things.
That's true.
Carrie is like the blueprint for so many of his stories.
Right.
The small town, childhood trauma,
Right.
the clash between the ordinary and the supernatural.
All there.
It's all there.
Yeah.
And the film captures the essence of King's writing so well. It's casting the atmosphere, that unsettling score.
Yeah.
It all works together.
It does.
To create this disturbing and effective experience.
It's effective.
Speaking of disturbing,
okay,
that final scene where Sue has that nightmare with Carrie's hand coming out of the grave. What do you think that means?
I think it's open to interpretation.
Okay.
On one hand, it's a classic horror thing.
Right.
The vengeful spirit coming back.
Yeah.
But it could also be a metaphor for the trauma of what happened.
Even though Carrie is gone,
right,
the scars of her pain and rage remain.
Yeah.
It's a chilling reminder.
It is.
We can't escape the consequences of our actions.
Exactly.
And it raises these questions about guilt, forgiveness, and if true atonement is even possible after such a tragedy.
It's a haunting ending.
It is.
It sticks with you.
It does. But that's the power of Carrie, right?
It is.
It makes you confront these uncomfortable truths. Think about your own choices.
Yeah.
And the world we live in.
It does.
Like, what is it about these kinds of stories, these dark, unsettling tales?
Yeah.
What draws us in? Why are we fascinated by the monstrous, the horrific? What does that say about us?
Well, I think horror lets us face our fears.
Okay.
But in a safe way.
Right.
We get that adrenaline rush, that feeling of dread.
Yeah.
But we know it's just a story.
Right.
We can walk away,
unscathed.
Exactly.
Like a controlled experiment with our emotions.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
We can explore the darkness without actually experiencing it.
Right.
But with Carrie, it's not just about the supernatural horror, is it?
No, not at all.
It's about facing the real horrors.
Right. The ones in our world.
Right. The ones that don't involve telekinesis.
Exactly.
Or blood-soaked proms. Yeah. But are just as terrifying.
Yeah.
Bullying, isolation, extremism.
Right.
The pressure to conform.
Yeah.
Those are all real issues.
They are.
With very real consequences.
Carrie takes those themes to an extreme.
Right.
But they're still grounded in reality.
They are. And by amplifying them, by making them so visceral, the film makes them impossible to ignore.
It does.
We can't just dismiss it as fantasy.
No.
There's a truth to it.
There is.
An emotional truth
that
resonates with anyone who's felt like an outsider, anyone who's been treated unfairly or rejected.
It's powerful.
And I think that's why it still works.
Yeah.
Decades later. It's a timeless story.
It is.
About wanting to be accepted.
Yeah.
The destructive nature of fear and the consequences of our actions.
Good and bad.
Right, both intended and unintended.
Absolutely. And we can't forget De Palma's direction.
Oh, yeah.
He blends horror drama, social commentary into this disturbing but effective package.
Right.
The visuals, the performances, the score.
It's a masterpiece.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah.
Carrie is one of those films you can watch again and again and find new meaning each time.
Yeah.
It stays with you.
It does.
It makes you think about the world, human nature, our choices.
That's thought-provoking.
It is.
Yeah.
And it reminds us of the power of a good story.
Oh, for sure.
King's novel was the start, but De Palma brought it to life.
He did.
In such a visceral, unforgettable way.
It's unforgettable.
It's a testament to their genius.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't seen Carrie, add it to your list.
You should.
It's a classic for a reason.
It is.
And even if you have seen it, watch it again.
It's worth it.
You might be surprised how much it still resonates.
Yeah.
How relevant it still is.
In our crazy world.
Well, this brings us to the end of our deep dive into Carrie.
A classic.
It's been fascinating.
Yeah.
And a little terrifying.
A little bit.
But until next time.
Yes.
Keep exploring those dark corners of cinema.
Oh, I will.
But maybe leave the lights on.
Good advice.
Just in case.
You never know.